Hello everybody. It's been a while since I've made a video, and I've been wanting to do one for a while, but I've just been too lazy, in all honesty. I've just been watching the playoffs and never really thought about making a video, but I'll do one. I'll just quickly wanted to talk about the Super Bowl matchup that we finally got between the Chiefs and the Niners, and just some comments on the playoffs so far. It's been both a really fun playoffs and a really boring playoffs at the same time. The wild card round was just full of mostly blowouts and teams holding on to leads. There wasn't any lead changes. It was quite a boring wild card round, except for the Lions Rams game, and for me, the Packers Cowboys game, because I don't want the Cowboys to win, and the Packers just destroyed them. So that was a fun game. And even the Bucks and Eagles, that was a fun game too, because I wanted to see Baker Mayfield actually do something. And yeah, those three games were really fun for me, but the other three games were just snooze fests. Texans and Browns, terrible way to start the playoffs. I was obviously rooting for Houston and Cleveland. I really didn't care who won, but just to see the game be that much of a blowout was sort of surprising. Like the two pick sixes were fun, but I wanted a closer game, and the Browns were just destroyed with a team that was expected to go toe to toe with Baltimore. Then they had the Dolphins and Chiefs game. That game was just so boring. I couldn't handle Taylor Swift that often. It was just so frustrating to see a team that I was supporting throughout the year, just the Dolphins, because they're a fun team, just get absolutely dog walked in the playoffs. And it's true. In cold weather, they're just useless and garbage. And yeah, it's tough. And then the third game, I'm forgetting already. Oh yeah, Bills and Steelers. Pretty forgetful game. Bills had the lead comfortably throughout the game and then almost blew it and then just kept the lead. That game was a really boring game. I didn't get to watch most of it, but not that exciting of a game, and I'm happy that it ended quickly. Shouldn't have been delayed. I would have rather had them play in the snow than watch that garbage. And that was the wild card round. Pretty underwhelming. But the divisional round was not. The first game was pretty underwhelming. Baltimore cruised to a victory over the Houston Texans. Houston already made it that far. They have a great future, drafted super well this year, and Baltimore was just a better team, and they were able to just annihilate them on all fronts. Then you have Niners and Green Bay. That game was pretty fun. I was rooting for Green Bay because I don't like the Niners, as you can see. So I was rooting for Green Bay, and they almost won, and barely lost after leading in the fourth quarter. It's tough, but they've got a young future. I don't want them to beat us, but you know they can beat the Niners all day long, and unfortunately they didn't. They're 0-3 against the Niners in the last 4 years, 5 years. So yeah, the Packers played well, and then the Niners moved on. And then Sunday, Lions and Bucks was a super fun game. I was really rooting for them, and they beat the Bucks barely, but it was a fun game to watch. Baker Mayfield was playing great. Mike Evans was great, and it was so unfortunate they had to lose. But in reality, I would have rather had Detroit than Tampa Bay, and it's a shame that Baker had to go out that way with that pick. But he played well. I'm hoping that the Bucks can bounce back and actually be a really good team in the future. Get back to where they were with Tom Brady and not be in such a bad division where an 8-9 or 9-8 record gets you in and nobody else gets in because it's all just so terrible. But the Bucks, I'm rooting for them. I love Baker Mayfield, great guy, and I'm really hoping that they can go far in the playoffs next year. But the Lions win, which was great for them, back-to-back wins in the playoffs. They made it to the NFC Championship game. Dallas hasn't even done that. We haven't done that in a decade. It's crazy, and it's all props to them. And then finally, Bills and Chiefs. That was a crazy game. And the Bills collapsed. They just didn't know how to play football. Couldn't do anything in the pass game. Stephon Diggs was garbage and couldn't catch a ball. The run game was doing pretty well, but it's just the Chiefs are more experienced. They've played in more higher stakes games than the Bills, and they've known how to beat them for the last two times. Third time's the charm. That's not the case here. Bills lose, and it's tough. But again, the Bills, I was rooting for them. They were a team that I thought could finally do it this year, but of course there was the Madden curse. People forget about that. And then also, it's Taylor Swift. You can't do anything against her. She's all impending doom. She's the thing that's gonna keep the Chiefs alive. And yeah, Chiefs win on a missed field goal, which is Taylor's curse. But yeah, Chiefs win, Bills lose. It's tough for the Bills. I think they'll be able to bounce back. I think they'll be in the playoffs next year, but they might need to have some changes just to switch things up. I don't know, get a better running back if they want to keep James Cook as a second option, get new receivers, maybe trade Diggs, retool that defense. A lot of things they should do, but we'll have to see in the offseason. And then that set up the conference games, which just happened yesterday between the Niners and Lions and Chiefs and Ravens. Chiefs and Ravens started first. I was rooting for the Ravens. I didn't want to see Taylor Swift in a Super Bowl. I was thinking, Lamar could finally do it. He's in a championship game. He won a playoff game. He's now in this shot to make it to the Super Bowl, and they played like garbage. Couldn't do anything. And I think it's just a sign that when you're too good for your own will, you end up becoming more unexperienced in other aspects, such as being down. And the Ravens were killing it all year. They killed Seattle. They killed Detroit. They killed the Niners in San Francisco. They killed everybody. And it's just, when you get too good, you think everything's fine and you don't have to change anything or don't have to adjust. And when you're down, you don't think of anything. And the Chiefs were able to exploit them with Travis Kelce, who had an amazing game today. Patrick Mahomes, too. Were on fire this game. And when it mattered most, their offense couldn't perform. Their defense was decent. They were helping in the second half, trying to get their offense to do something. But Lamar just made some dumb throws into triple coverage for Likely. Zay Flowers had a taunting penalty and then fumbled on the 1 yard line. So it's just not a great game for the offense there. But I think they'll be back. I think they still need to retool. We all talked about their receivers being an issue last season when they finally got OBJ and Zay Flowers. I think they need to draft another receiver and maybe better O-line. Their O-line has been great, but they need more offensive firepower to actually get over this hump. And I think if they do, if Lamar plays like this again, they could actually do something in the playoffs and actually make it to the Super Bowl. But Chiefs advance. Taylor Swift's in a Super Bowl. It's great. It's all great. I love the media. I love them posting this over and over and over and over. And it's great. And I love it. And, yippee. And then you had the Lions and Niners game. I was rooting for Detroit the entire game. I was so happy for them when they went up 24-7 going into half. They were on fire that entire first half, and the Niners couldn't come back. They were just stunned at how great Detroit was playing. But I knew that the Niners were going to come back. I was more thinking that, hey, the Niners aren't a team that's going to just die. They died last year in the championship because Brock Purdy tore something in his elbow, and then their backup quarterback got injured. So, you can't really win with that. But they came back slowly but surely. Dan Campbell was a little too aggressive in my opinion. Obviously, that's his philosophy, where he's meant to be that more aggressive and more ballsy. But I just think at some point you got to take the points. I think in the playoffs, that philosophy, you have to ignore it. And most philosophies should go down the drain when it comes to playoff time, except for your general game plan. But if it comes to being more aggressive or being less aggressive, I think in the playoffs you have to just take the points. There's never a situation where I have seen that a team that didn't take the points when they lost didn't lose by 3. For example, with this game, if they took the 2 field goals that they went for fourth down on, they would have been winning 37-34 with that final score line, and they would have had the time to tie the game with the field goals that they would have had. It would have been 27-7 or 27-14, pretty sure. Made a 2-score game. Or 27-17. I'm not totally sure about how the scores ended, but they would have had a 10-point lead instead of a 7-point lead. And then when they didn't kick the field goal again, it would have been another 3-point lead instead of it being tied. And it sucks. I don't want to see the Niners win the Super Bowl. I really didn't. I don't want to see the Chiefs in the Super Bowl either. It was my least favorite matchup. But it's tough. I really was hoping for the Lions. I thought this was their year that they could actually do it, win the Super Bowl. But I'm hoping they can actually be consistent and stay in the playoffs for years to come. I don't think they should be a team that's, they're not that great anymore. Like, they're gonna have their 1 year, then they're gonna go back down to reality. I think they can be perennial contenders. I think the culture there is something that a lot of players want to join. And I think if the Lions just keep adding, they can be one of those teams that is always in the fight for the divisional round, conference championship every year. And I'm rooting for them. When they win the Super Bowl, it's going to be a great year because they're the team that deserves it the most. They've gone through so much as a organization, as a fan base, and as a city. They haven't had much success since the Pistons in '05, or the Tigers. Really, like, there hasn't been much success, and for them to go through this such a heartbreaking way of losing by when you're up 17, it's tough. And yeah, so the Niners and Chiefs are in the playoffs. They're in the Super Bowl. They won their way out, and it's great. I don't know who to root for. I'm probably going to root for Kansas City, even though I talked about how I hate Taylor Swift and the Chiefs and the media talking about them all the time. I would rather have them win the Super Bowl than my division rival, just because I'm just so anti Rams, Cardinals, Niners that I'd rather see Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce all day long than the Niners hosting a Super Bowl. But yeah, we'll have to see. It's in 2 weeks. This has been a pretty unenjoyable playoffs, in my opinion, except for the Detroit aspect. I was really rooting for them. They didn't pull through. But yeah, go Lions. I'm an honorary fan. And yeah, I'll probably do a video when the Super Bowl's over about who won, which is it's just gonna be great. Can't wait to watch that game. I hope it ends like 3-0, 1-0 on a 2-point conversion safety for 1 point. Something. I want to see something that just makes it worth it to me. Both teams have the worst games of their lives, and then one wins by 1 point, scoring like one field goal. It's just not going to be fun. I'm rooting for the Chiefs. I can't see the Niners win a Super Bowl. I've already seen the Rams win. It's just too tough. Yeah, we'll have to see. It's in 2 weeks. And yeah, that's about it. See ya.